So one of the things in the trade that we're taught very early on at apprentice level is something called an M check. So basically it's just a way of breaking the bike down into parts to check it over in the shape of an M. So starting from the bottom, going up, down to the bottom bracket, up to the seat and down to the back again. So checking the fittings to make sure they're tight. I know it sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised how many bikes we get in the shop that people ride in and leave for repair and the wheel is barely hanging on. So that's worth just checking to make sure they're tight. Moving up to the front, checking the brakes. On these road brakes, they normally have a little cam here. When it's open like that, the brake isn't safe to use. So it's just making sure things like that are closed and everything is set properly. And just making sure that the brake pads are actually touching the rim and there's plenty of wear on the brake pads as well. With brake pads, has anybody ever seen a brake pad out of a bike before? Have you ever seen how they've got grooves cut in them? If you can't see those grooves, brake pads are done. They need to be changed sooner rather than later. Moving to the bottom bracket, there's not a lot you can do about that mechanically unless you actually have the tools to deal with it. But it's just making sure that it's actually stiff and there's no play in it. The other important thing that people don't check enough is the seat, so moving up to this bit. On a day-to-day basis when you're riding the bike, just make sure the fittings are still tight because these are tightened to very, very low amounts and they can slip and move. But it's just a good idea to take the seat post out occasionally. If you put a little bit of tape around there, you'll know where it was set. And just wipe it down, a bit of grease or anti-seize or anti-slip, whatever's appropriate for your frame, and just pop it back in again. Gearing and things like that, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Setting up gears and something is something we're trained to do, and it takes quite a long time to learn how to do it properly, but it's just basically looking at it and making sure everything's straight. And when the bike is in a gear indicated by the shifter, if you have indicators on the shifter, or if you know which particular gear it's in, that everything is sitting straight, so the derailleur is not kind of bent over like that or bent out like that, and basically running through the gears and making sure you can achieve each gear. And just those basic checks are about as much as you need to do on a very basic level, and things like checking the tyres at the right pressure as well. They actually tell you the pressures on the side of the tyre. So normally they have them imprinted, so this particular one here is 90 to 125 psi. So as long as you're above the minimum, you're fine. So it's worth checking them. Road tyres in particular go down quite quickly because they're high pressure, they do lose air. So it's worth just topping them up every now and then with a good track pump with a gauge on it or something similar, just keeping an eye on it basically so you don't get any flats with potholes.